Hi everyone, Wolf Ranch Homestead here, and we are taking the goats out for a walk through the woods. Our last video was a quiet one, just natural sounds. This time we'll introduce you to everybody, talk a little bit about the goats, some of the trees and some of the things in the woods out here. So we'll walk a little bit forward. We just came off the main trail and we're going to cut back in the woods behind the cabin and then meet back up with the trail. Here comes the little man. Come on, buddy. Good boy. Good boy. That's his favorite thing. If you tell him good boy, he knows that he's following along like he's supposed to, and he'll usually talk back to you. We'll walk a little bit more forward and then I'll tell you about everybody. So this is Dad. His name's Kuwabara. He's 100% Nubian. He's a tall fellow. If you've ever met a Great Pyrenees or a Great Dane, he's about that size. He's a pretty big boy. The farm we got him from had disbudded him, but his horns started to come back in about 2 years old. This is Mom, Botan. She is a boar mix. She's mostly white with a little bit of brown on her face. She's naturally polled. She has no horns. We think Yusuke is going to get that from her. He had some little nubs, but he's never got anything in, so we're just going to keep watching, but we didn't want to do anything to him. We don't want to do anything like that as far as trying to disbud anybody. Dad has a black stripe down his back, and he got a partial stripe from him, but he mostly favors Mom. He's solid white, some brown on the head. Probably going to be about her size, too. I'm wondering if he'll sprout up by chance like his daddy did. When his daddy hit a year old, he got a growth spurt. So we're seeing if he's going to get a little bit taller, but he's still about knee height now. So that is Yusuke. He's their son. So Kuwabara, Botan, Yusuke. They're all named after an animated show. I think it was the late 90s called Yu Yu Hakusho. And that's where they got all their names from. Yusuke is the main character. Kuwabara is kind of like his rival. And Botan is like the spirit guide for Yusuke. So because Botan was a first-time mama, she did not handle it well. She only had one baby. She had Yusuke. And she rejected him from the time he was born, unfortunately. So she had him a little bit early. Went out to the barn, wondered why everybody was quiet, and he was laying there. He was cold, he was still wet. They were acting like he was a little alien, basically, wanted nothing to do with him. So I tried to get him up. I got him on his feet, tried to get him over there to her. She was trying to headbutt him. But I held her still and held her head where she couldn't really do anything, trying to hold her and see if he could get some milk from her. She was bagged up, but she wasn't releasing milk. I wondered why he was having trouble, and I checked by hand, and she was not releasing milk. So because they need that colostrum when they're first born to really get them on the right track, we had to contact the vet and get emergency colostrum. Got him inside, got him warmed up. He kind of had the double bad luck of not only Mom completely rejecting him, but also not releasing milk. So we had to go get colostrum from our veterinarian, get him inside, dry him up, clean him up, warm him up. But luckily, in all of that, he was not by himself. Our elderly cattle dog was inside and right there by him, watching over him. She was already not doing too well by then, but she still tried really hard to be his friend and to be very attentive to him. And even when she got a little bit slow, they liked going on walks together. he would go outside, and he'd kind of potty train himself for the most part, where he would just wait till we took him outside. He would go outside, have his bottle, go to the restroom, and then go on the walk with Puppy Dog. They would all go outside together. So he got used to walking with her, and that's how he eventually learned about walking on his harness. He would follow right along with her. And she was with us long enough to make sure that he got big and he got weaned and he was out there with the big goats. And she was a great friend to him. She was a great friend to everybody, and she used to walk all these same paths that I walk with them. So it's very nice to be able to follow the same trails and walk around where she liked to walk at too. Because Mom was not a good mama, well, we wanted to keep everybody together. Then Daddy was fixed shortly after she gave birth. And at the vet's recommendation, we waited till a certain age, and then Yusuke was fixed. His hand raising, being bottle raised, he has a great personality. He's so sweet, so docile. Even when he went to get fixed, the vet was, talking about how he was very calm, very quiet. Which is weird because he's totally opposite of his parents. His personality is nothing like theirs. He learned a lot of things by watching them as far as what to eat. Oh, excuse me. Had to yawn. But his personality did not shape like theirs at all. So Dad is very hyperactive, very playful. He calmed down a lot after getting fixed, where he's not as much of a bully in that aspect, where he doesn't try to come up and headbutt you. He'll actually come up and nip your clothes, or he'll make a sound at you if he wants to play. And it's almost like he asks you first, like if it's okay to play with you. And then if you want to play with him, I'll hold my hand out, and he'll put his head up against my hand, and we'll push against each other. But he doesn't just come up and headbutt you outright. Mom is definitely a bully. She knows she can't do anything with Kuwabara, like when they're eating and stuff. Everybody stays separated. But she does still try to sometimes push Yusuke out of the way. So again, we've tried to adapt everybody to where they can eat separately, not have any trouble, and then everybody gets out together and they're in their little, out in their goat pen together. It took some time getting everybody used to one another. Botan and Kuwabara got along really well to start with, but introducing Little Man, they still looked at him like he was just not even a goat when he first got around them. So we had to wait not only till he was old enough to be fixed, but healed up, and then try to introduce everybody to him. But now they're all together, and they enjoy getting out with one another. So we're going to call them along and walk further back in the woods, show you some of the trees, talk about some of the wildlife. Some really pretty small eastern red cedar. This one sprouted up pretty nice. They're not like the little Christmas trees you might see at the store. They're pretty thin for the most part on these. Another one here. I can't remember, I think it might have been this one, but one of these was a real favorite for the deer to rub on. And somewhere over here we've got a spot where the deer have been pawing at the dirt, and also using the licking branch and rubbing. The whistle is just a different way of saying, hey, goat. They respond a little bit differently. Sometimes they'll want to listen to you when you say, hey, goat. Sometimes they'll want to come over when you whistle, but the whistle travels a lot further. Come on, Yusuke. Good boy. When I was a kid, my grandmother had a large herd of goats. And she had one goat named Mama's Boy. For the longest time, he was the herd leader, and eventually they got one named George. But all of the herd, moms and babies, would follow that main male around the farm and through the woods and follow where he went. They are herd animals, so they would trust him and follow along with him. When Mama's Boy passed away, then George took over. And George was the leader of the group. And then eventually, after years, then they said goodbye to George. And they were without a herd leader, so they usually would not go off in the woods by themselves. They would wait for my cousin and I, or just me, to go out there with them. And we would start walking and call, hey, goat. And they would come follow us in the woods, and we'd show them where all the good trees were. Take them on long walks. And that's not only where I got using hey, goat to call them, but also taking them out on walks and knowing once they're bonded to you how they'll follow you around. So even though Kuwabara is technically boss of the group, they will all follow you along and trust your judgment on where to go in the woods here. Trying to find the spot where we had the area where the whitetail had done his marking at. I think it's by one of these beech trees. I like to see what kind of activity we have out here. The deer just hang out and shelter down back here. We don't hunt them at all. So if you ever see us with our deer hides, we do videos about, or we have on Etsy. It's not anything from here. It's not deer we've harvested. They're from the local processors. There we are. That's where it is. I just like to observe how they're doing out here and see what they're up to. So we've got, there's their little rub spot. Well, they've been using the branch, and now they've knocked that one completely down now. A little bare spot. There's some good marks up against the bottom of some saplings out here. Now I've got, you might see it in my shadow, but I brought the 410 with me because we do see different scat piles out here. And I've seen some, and I'm not sure if it's coyote or fox because it was a little bit runny. So I try to be prepared in case we do have anything come up on the goats. Oh, we've got another spot. I hadn't seen this one before. There's another little bare spot right there where somebody's been marking at. But apparently that's what they'll do, is they'll get that dirt cleaned out and they'll mark their scent there. So it's nice to see we have quite a few little spots where the deer have been coming through. Some nice oak trees back in here. Coming up to a really neat tree over there. I wanted to show you, there's another big oak tree. I think that's a white oak. I'm trying to look at the bark. But it helps sometimes to look at all the leaves that are around the base of the tree in the fall to get an idea of what you've got. Now look at this. It's one of my favorite trees. Now you got to see what it is too. But it's got a really neat little hole in the tree there where it looks like a limb broke off at some point. We've got the sweet bay down here, very fragrant, and that's mainly what we have. But we also have southern magnolia. There's a few of those that have appeared out here. It's not anything we've planted. It's just, it has come up over time. Maybe some kind of animal transferred it, like a bird or something. Another really big, pretty oak. And a beech right there. The beech is easy to identify in the wintertime because it will drop most of the leaves, but it will leave some on here in this gold color. I call it the gold of the woods. You can look through where a lot of the leaves have dropped and you can still see where some of these are based on those leaves that are left in that coloration. So that's the American beech. They do get really big. My grandmother's at her farm out in the goat pasture was huge. And honestly, probably could have been a state record if not for the fact that at some point a storm came through, lightning hit the top of it, and it shattered off. But it was a pretty large beech tree. And here we've got a wild azalea. Starting to get some little buds on it. These are easy to identify in the spring because a lot of things still won't have buds or leaves on them. And you'll start to see these really pretty pink flowers. Right around the time the first hummingbirds arrive here, like March, April range, they'll start to put on these pretty pink flowers that look almost like honeysuckle. And they smell really, really nice. And they're good for attracting pollinators. It's a native plant. Looks kind of like a little small tree. And lots of different butterflies will visit this, and also the hummingbirds. We're hoping to get some video of the hummingbirds this year visiting one of these wild azaleas. Let's keep walking up so we can meet back up to the trail. Now there's a very similar bark pattern, unless you kind of know what to look for, between dogwood and persimmon. They both have this little knobby bark. This looks like a possibly rotten dogwood. All the persimmons pretty much are smaller. Our big persimmon that we had unfortunately died off a few years ago. The American persimmon is another native. It's a favorite to... What you looking at? I don't know what he's looking at. I gotta read their body language in case they see something. But the American persimmon is a native that puts on really nice fruit that wildlife love, especially deer, possum, raccoon. It smells very nice. You can tell when the fruit's coming on because you can start to smell it. And we had one large tree that was out here. And unfortunately, that tree died off on its own. Didn't seem to have any insect problems. But we have a few smaller trees now. They're still going strong. Ooh. Can't tell what that broke off of. Rotten piece. Might be that right there. But it looks like it might have been an oak, so this might be good for smoking deer hides, like some punk wood. But we're getting at a point where we've got a low battery here. We've walked for quite a bit, talked a little bit about the goats, some of the trees and plants, and the wildlife. Hope you enjoyed walking with us out in the woods. We're going to go meet back up with the main trail and take them back. Since they've had a good time out walking. Have to take Miss Ma'am here and give her a brush down to get some of those burrs out of her. The other two, Dad and Son, don't really get burrs stuck on them much, but her, with her longer curly hair, she'll get burrs in there, so we'll have to take and comb her out. But again, hopefully you enjoyed taking a little walk. Next time we'll take you down by the branch so you can see the creek, see some of the pretty stones that are down there, and listen to the water. We will see you all again next time, and thanks for watching with us. Kuwabara, Botan, and Yusuke all say we'll see you later. And as we sign off, there's a little mark right there, and there's where somebody's been scrubbing on this sapling. So more deer sign as we sign off. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again in our next video. Take care.